Senator Hall, I'm going to pivot a little bit on your question here right now. At the beginning, you talked about parental rights. We need a bill of parental rights. And I think that probably one of the reasons you're talking about that is because we have classroom teachers, we have school boards that are telling parents, we know best what's for your children. And one of the things that they're teaching is critical race theory. In other words, racism. Apologize for something you have no control over. Could you go into that just a little bit as far as what type of rights parents should have over their education? I know you've also fought against CPS. You have a lot of latitude on this answer, Senator Hall, but just tell us what you talked about with parental rights and how important that is so that our children turn out well.
Well, it's the parents that are responsible for the children. They're responsible for their health and they're responsible for their education. They're responsible for getting them from being an infant to supposedly an adult that's at 18, but maybe that should be moved to 25 or 30 these days. But I didn't mean to say that. But we have had too much of the woke move into our education system, where we have today in many public schools, now not all of them, we have some public schools that are led by some really God-fearing superintendents and principals and teachers in there that understand that their job is to educate the children, not to indoctrinate them. We have those, but we also have those that believe just the opposite, that it's the school's responsibility and has the authority to indoctrinate the kids any way they want to. We have moved away from reading, writing, arithmetic, history, civics, and the arts and languages as being what they're in school for, is to the woke version of how do you feel about this? And you can tell what the school is when you ask a child about something, whether they would say from a critical thinking standpoint, well, from what I understand, from what I read, I would think this. You get the answer, well, I feel that maybe this is what is there. And we move to the touchy-feely in which gets away from just education, the basic education. That's where CRT comes in teaching stuff that's just absolutely not true, absolutely false. We had it in our school system, the version of Common Core, and I forgot the name we called it. Jill, you remember what that was? But anyway, we had it in our schools where teachers were telling the kids, now, you cannot take your books home, you cannot take the homework home, you cannot show this to your parents. Well, the one good thing that has come out of COVID, and there can't be more than one good thing that's come out of COVID, the one is parents actually got to see what some of our kids were being taught. And that has woken them up to that it's not what they thought was happening in there. And so I guess that's the problem is that we have, the parents need to have the right to see everything that is taught in the schools. They have the right to know what is being taught. And I will say one thing from sex education standpoint here, we did make the change. It is an opt-in in Texas. It is not, it is optional for the schools. They do not have to teach it. And if they do, it has to be abstinence-based, and they have to have written permission for the child to be in the program from the parent, not a note that says, no, I want to take my child out of it. And so we have put up some barriers with legislation that we have passed that helps along that line, but we've got a lot to open up. And one of the major things that we've got to do is we've got to separate ourselves in our education system from the federal government, because a lot of what goes on there is tied to the money our schools take. It's not that much money, and it doesn't go that much for education. Most of it goes into the free lunches that are given in our schools. But they have strings attached to it, and another diet, but if you look into it and see what the data they're collecting on your children, it will blow your mind. And their data they're collecting, and they're selling that information based on the way they're testing them and other things, which is a whole other subject.